What if the most crushing playoff defeat in WNBA history was actually the moment that transformed everything for the Indiana Fever? The 2025 season wasn't supposed to end with Stephanie White holding back tears inside a Las Vegas locker room. But sometimes, the greatest victories arrive disguised as heartbreak. This is the untold story of how 6 injuries, phantom fouls, and a hospital emergency combined to create the most unbelievable playoff game ever, and why what happened after the buzzer may matter even more than the game itself. The Fever entered 2025 chasing a championship. By mid-January, that dream seemed shattered. Caitlin Clark's nagging ankle issues had her in and out of the lineup, triggering a domino effect no one saw coming. Sydney Colson tore her ACL in practice. Aaliyah Boston fought through chronic knee inflammation. Sophie Cunningham played on an MCL injury that should have ended her season. And Damiris Dantas lost key weeks to concussion protocols. A team built for contention could barely field a healthy starting 5. But that's when things got interesting. And hey, if you're watching right now, drop a comment. Do you think the Fever can bounce back stronger next year? What followed defied every prediction. Instead of folding, the Fever played with desperation, and it made them dangerous. Stephanie White's entire coaching philosophy shifted. She abandoned the playbook and told her players to trust their instincts. The results? Stunning. They upset the Minnesota Lynx in the Commissioner's Cup with just 7 healthy players. They forced 3 overtime games against the Phoenix Mercury in a single month. Analysts called it luck, but something deeper was brewing in that locker room. Then came the playoffs. Despite the chaos, Indiana somehow clawed their way in. Facing the defending champion Las Vegas Aces should have been a sweep. Vegas had Aya Wilson in MVP form, Jackie Young dominating both ends, and a stacked roster ready to repeat. Meanwhile, Indiana was signing players off the street just to practice. Vegas in 3 games. Maybe 4 if Indiana got lucky. That was the consensus. No one predicted what actually happened. Game 5 in Las Vegas descended into pure chaos. The Fever, missing multiple rotation players, were forced into lineups that had never shared the court before. Kelsey Mitchell, who'd carried the offense all series, collapsed in the second quarter. She was rushed to the hospital for severe dehydration, leaving Indiana without their leading scorer in an elimination game. Then came the controversy. Aaliyah Boston picked up her 3rd foul on a clean block, clear as day on replay. Her 4th came on a play where she barely made contact. By the time she fouled out with 27 seconds left on yet another phantom call, even the Vegas crowd was booing the refs. But that was only part of the madness. Odyssey Sims erupted for 27 points, hitting clutch shot after clutch shot to keep Indiana alive. Every time Vegas tried to pull away, Sims answered, a pull-up here, a crafty finish there. She refused to let their season die. Lexi Hull, a name most fans barely knew, made defensive stops that saved possessions and hit timely jumpers that silenced the Vegas crowd. Grace Berger, thrust into the point guard role with Mitchell gone, orchestrated the offense with passes that didn't seem humanly possible. This wasn't just basketball. It was willpower in motion. And the officiating? So one-sided that even neutral fans started calling it out. Indiana players got hammered on drives with no whistles, while Vegas went to the line for minimal contact. Social media exploded. Conspiracy theories about the league protecting its marquee team spread like wildfire. Former players and coaches tweeted their disbelief. The officiating overshadowed one of the most competitive games ever played. If you think the refs changed the outcome, hit that like button, because what happened next will blow your mind. Despite it all, Indiana forced overtime. Boston fouled out. Mitchell was in the hospital. The refs seemed against them. Still, they wouldn't quit. Overtime became the ultimate display of who they were. Katie Lou Samuelson drilled a clutch 3 to tie it. Temi Fagbennel battled for offensive boards to give them extra chances. Even with dead legs and a shredded rotation, they matched Vegas shot for shot until the final horn. When it ended, Vegas by 4, something extraordinary happened. The entire Aces team walked over to the Fever bench, not to celebrate, but to pay respect. Aya Wilson told Stephanie White her team deserved the win. Jackie Young hugged every Fever player. The Vegas crowd gave Indiana a standing ovation. This wasn't your typical elimination game. What White said afterward might be the most important speech in franchise history. She didn't talk about the refs, or the injuries, or the unfairness. She talked about grace, dignity, and perseverance, about showing the basketball world what real heart looks like. That speech, captured by a team assistant, has now gone viral. Over 10 million views. Players across the league have shared it, calling it the defining moment of the 2025 season. Then came the revelations. Kelsey Mitchell's hospital tests uncovered an underlying condition that had plagued her all year, something she'd never used as an excuse. Aaliyah Boston's foul stats revealed she'd been called for more fouls per minute than any player in playoff history, despite having one of the lowest contact rates. 3 days later, the league called. The WNBA officially launched an investigation into Game 5's officiating. And for the first time ever, they admitted officiating errors influenced a playoff outcome. The report that followed was damning. 17 missed calls, 15 against Indiana. 2 referees were suspended indefinitely. It confirmed what fans already knew. Indiana wasn't just fighting the Aces that night. But instead of dwelling on injustice, the Fever used it as fuel. Caitlin Clark, recovering from her ankle injury, said the team showed her what basketball is truly about. Sophie Cunningham posted that she'd never been prouder to wear a Fever jersey. Stephanie White had built something rare, a culture forged in adversity. Free agents who once ignored Indiana now wanted in. Veterans wanted to play for White. Young players wanted to be part of something real. The loss that should have broken them turned into their greatest recruiting pitch. Even more remarkable, not a single core player wanted out. Kelsey Mitchell signed an extension instead of testing free agency. Aaliyah Boston said publicly she wants to retire a Fever. That kind of loyalty, you can't buy it. Meanwhile, the fallout has sparked change across the league. Former players and coaches are demanding accountability in officiating. Fans are louder than ever, fighting not just for their teams, but for fairness across the WNBA. Yet the real story isn't about bad calls, injuries, or heartbreak. It's about what Stephanie White found in that locker room. A group of players who redefined what it means to compete. They proved that winning isn't always about the scoreboard. Sometimes it's about proving that heart, unity, and belief can conquer anything. The 2025 Indiana Fever may not have lifted a trophy, but they earned something far greater: respect. They'll be remembered not for falling short, but for showing what's possible when a team refuses to break. They fought through injuries that would have ended other seasons. They pushed champions to the edge. They battled more than opponents. They battled circumstance itself. And they turned pain into legacy. Looking forward, the Fever are no longer underdogs. With their stars healing and free agents eager to join, they're poised to contend. What seemed like an ending in Las Vegas may actually be the beginning of something legendary. Even Aya Wilson admitted it, calling Indiana the toughest opponent she's ever faced. Not because of talent, but because they refuse to break. When the best player in the world says that about the team that just lost, you know something extraordinary happened. Because in the end, sports aren't just about winning and losing. They're about the human spirit, about rising when you should have fallen, finding strength in darkness, and turning defeat into destiny. The 2025 Indiana Fever didn't win a championship. They won something much more powerful. They won belief. Belief in themselves. Belief in each other. Belief that no matter the odds, resilience can rewrite any narrative. What started as a season plagued by injuries and heartbreak transformed into a story about identity, about who the Fever are and what they stand for. In a league that's constantly evolving, the Fever reminded everyone that grit still matters. That passion still matters. That heart can't be measured by stats or standings. In the weeks following that heartbreaking Game 5, something changed inside the Fever organization. Training sessions were fuller. Film studies became louder. The energy, contagious. Players who had once been quiet voices in the locker room started stepping up as leaders. There was a shared understanding now. They weren't just playing for wins, they were playing for legacy. Stephanie White doubled down on culture. She told her players the pain they felt wasn't something to move past, it was something to carry with pride. Scars, she said, remind us that we survived. And that message resonated far beyond the court. Local schools started using the Fever's story as a case study in perseverance. News outlets across the country covered their off-season turnaround as one of the most inspiring moments in women's sports. And the fans, they never left. Attendance for the 2026 preseason sold out faster than any year in franchise history. Fever merchandise sales tripled. Young girls showed up to games wearing homemade shirts that said, "Heart over calls." The Fever weren't just a team anymore. They had become a movement. Caitlin Clark, now healthy and training at full speed, called the upcoming season the Redemption Tour. She said, "If last year was about survival, this year's about proving why we belong at the top." Aaliyah Boston echoed the sentiment. "We've been to the bottom. We know how it feels. Now it's time to climb." Behind the scenes, new faces began arriving. Free agents drawn not by fame or money, but by the energy surrounding Indianapolis. Veterans who had played in championships admitted they wanted to experience what Indiana had built. A culture where effort was celebrated, where teammates were family, and where losses didn't define you, but refined you. Analysts across the sports world started calling the Fever the heart of the WNBA. Some said they reminded them of the 2015 Golden State Warriors before their dynasty. A team that wasn't supposed to win, but changed basketball by believing in something bigger than themselves. Even opposing players admitted it. Facing Indiana meant bracing for a fight that wasn't about talent alone. You had to outlast their heart. By the time the new season tipped off, the Fever were no longer the underdogs everyone pitted. They were the team everyone feared. Because what's more dangerous than a team with nothing left to lose? A team that's learned how to rise after it. And that's the legacy of the 2025 Indiana Fever. A team that turned pain into power, heartbreak into hunger, and adversity into identity. They didn't just change their season. They changed the standard for what it means to compete. So when history looks back, the record books might show a loss. But the story? The story will always remember the team that refused to die, the players who wouldn't stop fighting, and the coach who reminded the world that character still wins championships of its own. Because some victories can't be measured in rings or banners. Some are written in something far deeper: respect, courage, and the unbreakable will to keep believing when the world counts you out. And that's what the 2025 Indiana Fever taught us all.